It is time for a Friday Reads on a Monday and a TBR because let's do everything together. Hey everyone, it is Shannon and I'm super excited to be here today and share with you some of the books that I have been reading recently and some of the books I will be reading in the very near future, as well as some of the books I'm in the middle of probably. Yes, that as well. And my TBR for the History Challenge. If you are just here for the History Challenge TBR, I will leave a jump link down below with the timestamp. I know that there's not tons of crossover maybe between like the Summer Fling readers and the History Challenge readers, although I know there is some of us out there. I know Amy from Zoe Beck is doing both, and I know Sarah from Steeped in Books likes history as well. So, there's you can enjoy all of the things or one of the things. No judgment here, judgment-free zone. So I'll leave a jump link to the History Challenge TBR down below. But I'm going to start by getting started with some of my Summer Fling reading. And I did finish Let It Shine by Alyssa Cole, which I talked about last week. I don't have too many further thoughts on that. It was really good. I definitely will read more from Alyssa Cole. It was challenging. It was set during the Civil Rights movement, and some of the history stuff and the tension and the challenges were I found really tough. And so I was actually really glad that it ended up being a novella, because I think if it was longer, it would have taken me a long time to finish it just because it was so hard. But I really like the chemistry between the couple, and it was an interfaith couple as well as an interracial couple, and I will definitely read more from Alyssa Cole. I don't know where I'm going to go. I know that there's the sort of royalty series, so there's that. I think I'm mostly interested in the 0.5ers, like the in-betweeners in that series, so I don't know if it's okay to go like right there, or if there's a different series, or I'm not sure where to go next. But for now, the next one I read was, and I finished, was A King in Love by Barbara Cartland. This is the one that I picked for, I think it would count for old school historical, although it's not the sort of like bodice ripper type, but it could also be category romance because it's like 150 pages. I've never heard of BMI romance before, but this also feels very category romance. This is historically set. It is in two fictional European countries, and I'm not sure exactly when it's set. They didn't give a year, but all of the travel is done by horse and carriage, and they're concerned about Germany. So let me know your thoughts on when you think this could be set. And it was actually quite a fun read. It although it was both scandalous and sweet at the same time. In different times, it was scandalous. It managed to get some scandalous stuff in it while maintaining being pretty sweet, which was pretty creative, but some of the things that it does with that are, I think, we would consider outdated in terms of who they involved and who's allowed to do what. Maybe. But I quite enjoyed this. This follows a woman. She's the daughter of a Grand Duke, but she's not the eldest. Her sister is the eldest, and there's a king from a neighboring country, it's very mountainous, so that's another clue to the fictional country. It could be Switzerland, maybe? I don't know. So her sister is the oldest, and there's a king from a neighboring country that is getting to the age that his country wants him to have an heir, so he's sort of like going around meeting people. And so her family wants him to marry the sister, so they tell her to get out of here, make herself scarce, because they don't want him to see her, because she's too pretty, and he'll pick her, and not the sister they want to marry. So it's complicated, like even just that. It was very outright, like it was very clear. You are too attractive. Don't let yourself be seen. Go away. But she wants to see him, so she sort of creates a scenario where she can get to meet him, but like under the guise of not being the daughter. So it's quite clever and playful, and they have really good chemistry, but there definitely are some things in here that are outdated values in terms of what he's allowed to do versus what she's allowed to do, and just generally a couple of shocking things in terms of gender dynamics from that perspective, whether it was them or, even some of the things that she said about her father, I was like, really? You would be okay with your father doing that? Really? So yeah, it's a little outdated from that, or realistic, depending on your point of view. I don't know. Like, societally, not accepted but known kind of stuff. Anyway, yeah, but overall it was a fun read, and I'm glad that I finished it. It took me a fair amount of time to read. I did post on Instagram, there was one day last week where I read 3 whole pages of this, and that was the entirety of my reading that day. And part of that, I think, really has to do with, and I'm not going to talk about this too much because lots of people are talking about it, but part of that, I think, has to do with, I did finish Midnight Sun. I finished my Twilight reread, and then I went right to Midnight Sun, and I read this in 3 days, very concentrated. This is 658 pages. If you're unfamiliar, it is Twilight told from Edward's perspective, and it is like long, and it is it's way more text on the page and way smaller margins than Twilight, which was, I think, 500 pages. So, but I read each of them in 3 days each, and like after that I was like toast, and I FOMO'd myself. I totally FOMO'd myself. I wasn't even gonna read this, and I got caught up in the hype, and now I feel taken for a fool. I really feel taken for a fool. Not really. Like, Twilight is a series that I have a long history with, more so with the films than the books, because I had a podcast that was about both. And then, so I have a long history with it. So, like, when I think back, I was like, well, of course I'm going to read it. But I didn't think I was, and I got caught up in the hype, and then I didn't really enjoy it very much, like, at all, and, which is not a huge surprise, because I am not a fan of the character of Edward, so it doesn't make sense that I would enjoy a book from his perspective. And I read the draft back in the day, and I didn't really like it then either, but it's just like, I just got caught, so I just got caught by it. So, anyway, yeah, but I am looking forward to watching some, I know a lot of people are vlogging their experience, so I'm really curious to see how people feel about it. It really does seem to be sort of 2 camps in terms of it. People that are revisiting it and seeing all of the problematic elements in it, and then the people who are revisiting it and reliving the joy and the nostalgia of it. I know it's a book that got a lot of people into reading. It actually got me back into reading after not reading for many, many years. I was an adult coming to the series, though, so it's all of the Twilight stuff has been really exciting to see people come out of the woodwork and people that have enjoyed it, but it also is making me feeling just a little bit older, because, like, when it came out, I was not a teenager. I was working. I was already, like, done post-secondary education more than once. So it was not, but I totally fell in love with the series. And there was an awesome collective experience around it, which was one of the coolest things about it. But I'm just like, it's just like, it's surprising me how many people, it was so sort of more like one of the first series that they really loved, but they were really young, and that's totally fine. I'm not ageist or anything like that, but it's just, because I actually don't think about age, so it's moments like this, like these sort of social, like, collective experience moments where it comes out, and I'm like, whoa, like, whoa, so different. Anyway, so I don't want to talk too much about it. Generally, I did put a review on Goodreads, but for me, it felt mostly superfluous. There was one scene I really liked, but that wasn't really worth 658 pages, so I should just know that I shouldn't get caught by the FOMO train, but it happened. It happened. Some other stuff I read this week. I finished off 2 plays in this collection of Molière plays. I finished The Misanthrope, which I was, I think, in the middle of last time I did a video, and then I also read The Sicilian, or Love the Painter, and The Misanthrope is really good. It could almost qualify for summer fling, because it is very much about, there's one woman who has lots of suitors, and there's, like, the guy who's, like, her sort of strongest connection suitor, and he really takes, he really takes to task people who always say the right thing and aren't, and he qualifies that as not being honest, like that they're very flattering to everyone else, and wouldn't she rather be with him because he's being honest? And it's an interesting discussion, but it doesn't quite qualify as a romance, but it was close. The second one, Love the Painter, or The Sicilian, I think would qualify as a romance. It's very short. It's just 3 scenes. It's 17 pages in this version, and it's about a guy who falls in love with a woman nearby, but she is a slave. So this is old. This is like 16 1670, something like that. But she is a slave to someone nearby, but he falls in love with her and he wants to know if she feels the same way. So he tries to create a situation where he can meet her and stuff like that. It was very clever. I really enjoyed it. It does have problematic elements in terms of stereotyping different people. So there is that. But as I said, it's from like 1670 or something. So and it's a comedy, so which of those things usually go hand in hand. So anyway, I think all of these are sort of romance comedies of sorts, so it ends up being perfect that I'm reading it during the summer fling. I hope to finish off. The next one is, I think it's Tartuffe or The Imposter. I'm hoping to read that one this week, as well as maybe the next one, which is A Doctor in Spite of Himself. So, and these are translated from the French by... Oh, goodness. Where is it? John Wood. So, yeah, so I'm enjoying that. These were, so I've been reading Molière. What else have I been reading? What else have I been reading? So, I also started for the summer fling Fit by Rebekah Weatherspoon. This is a novella. It's about a woman who hires a personal trainer to lose some weight, and then some, romance ensues. That was the sort of what I thought it was going to be about. This actually is a bit darker than I expected. Or maybe not darker, not necessarily darker, but because the guy trainer is... he's a dom, so there. I don't know if there will be BDSM elements in this, but it feels like it might be going in that direction, and I completely did not know. So this could end up being for Dark and Dangerous or Hot and Spicy. It is also an author of color and big city, so it could fit in lots of different categories for the summer fling. I don't know where I'm going to end up putting it yet, so I'm a little on the fence on this one. Like, I'm enjoying it, but I wasn't expecting that element, so it just creates a different dynamic in terms of she's hiring him to do something, but he kind of might have something else in mind, and sort of, so far it's been quite good in terms of the communication factor, which is good, looks good promising for the rest of the story, but I am kind of worried about the power dynamic, so we'll see what happens. It's only a novella, it's 120 pages, so I'm sure I will finish it pretty soon. So far so good, although I will say that I felt like this cover kind of is a bit misrepresenting, because I really thought the male protagonist was black, but he is not. They keep referring to him as Nordic and blue eyes and blonde hair, and that's not what I saw when I saw this, so bad on me. It is actually an interracial couple though, but how they describe him does not match that cover. Maybe it's just me, I'm not sure. Not part of the summer fling, but what I will be reading recently is A Song Below Water by Bethany C. Morrow. I'm buddy reading this with Izzy, Punk Rock Girl PA. Hi, Izzy! And the live show is going to be next week, which is Tuesday, August 25th at 7 p.m. EST. Keep an eye for Izzy's Twitter and or YouTube channel for that. I'm really looking forward to checking this out. I think it says... I'm not sure if it's mermaids. It says young, black, secretly magical. Yay. I'm not sure if it's mermaids, maybe sirens, maybe both. I don't know. I am excited for this big time. So I haven't started this yet. This is going to be my priority read for the week, in addition to Summer Fling, in addition to the History Challenge. So now let's get to the History Challenge. So the History Challenge runs from August 17th to August 30th. There are 4 hosts: Emma from A Cup of Books, Justin from Triumphal Reads, Justin from Ghost Reader, and Jenny from Bookish Shenanigans. There is a prompt card. I think it's 12 or 16 prompts. I'm actually going to, because history is not a genre that I come to all that often, I'm just gonna do whatever I can in terms of reading and hopefully finish something or anything. I'm actually going to try and finish off 2 books that I am already in the middle of, so I hope that's okay. I do love nonfiction, but history is something that I don't tend to read a lot of, with the exception of art history. But this is one that I think is a really great place to start, or actually finish, because I already started it. And that is The History of the World in Bite-Sized Chunks by Emma Marriott. And this is really, I think, hopefully going to lay some groundwork, because my sort of challenge within the challenge, the challenge to myself within the History Challenge is going to be getting a good grounding for some of the big different time periods. I have like I have the certain time periods that I am more familiar with, and the certain aspects of history that I am more familiar with, either because I'm interested in the subject matter, or I took there's one class that I took fashion history. So that actually, the fashion history is like if you show me a woman wearing clothes, I can probably get the time period because of that one class. So it's really sort of like the landmark for me in terms of a lot of different periods in history. And that only goes back so far, like just before Victorian. So that's actually not, in the grand scheme of things, not very far. But it's a place to start. So I actually am going to use this book, and I took an art class. I'm taking an art class, and one of the assignments recently is to do these accordion books, and I am going to either use, I don't know if this one's too small, I might use this one, and just sort of map out some of the different time periods. I put like, I don't know what one of my favorites, Viking age, right? And write some information about it here, and then what the next period is and what the next period is, so I can have a timeline to rough in some of the things that I learn, as well as add in some of the things that I know. Even some things like that I know from pop culture that are like stories, even if it's historical fiction. And I'm going to keep that separate. I think what I'm going to do is I'm going to put like what I learned that's true, I'm going to add in things to the bottom. And then what I know that is fiction, I'm going to add in things to the top. Because that's the thing with accordion books, you can go in any direction you want. So I think that's what I'm going to do. I'll add the fictional elements. So like, for example, oh no, that's real. But like, fictional example of history. I'm lost. Anything. Outlander. Okay, so like there's particular, like, when is that? And then, so that's, yeah, and then, and then Macbeth, which is not great. Macbeth actually was based on a real person, which I didn't know. So anything like that. And then other, like the Shakespearean plays, Henry V, when was that? Edward II, when was that? I know that's anonymous, but it's the one I read most recently and is attributed to him. Anyway, so now I'm kind of like all over the place, but so that's sort of my idea, as my challenge within the challenge, is just to sort of rough in what I learn and have a space to add more for the more that I learn. So hopefully this book is going to help me to do that. Yeah, so I've already started that. I started that a couple months ago, but I only got like one chapter in. Another one that I'm including, and this is a bit more on the fun side of thing, is the Illustrated Guide to Viking Martial Arts by Antony Cummins. This I've mentioned a few times. I'm loving it. It actually takes information from the sagas with the fights, and then actually pulls them together to both in written form and visually describe the different moves that they're talking about, and then it actually gives you the references from the sagas. So this one I've already read Spear and Sword, and so I think the next chapter I'm going to read is Axe, and they have Axe and Shield, Unarmed, Combined Combat. I'm just loving this so much. It's so good. And then I'm going to start a new one. And this one I hear Justin from Triumphal Reads often talks about these Osprey books, and Scribed has a whole bunch of them. So I am going to read Saxon, Viking, and Normans, because this is one where I have some context for, but not all context for. I am interested in Vikings. It's just one of the time periods and one of the things that speaks to me. The show Vikings is one of my favorite shows of all time. I read the very short introduction to Vikings. I read a lot of historical romances that are Viking set. So I feel like fairly confident in some of the Viking stuff. Norman is a little less, but I do get it now. I didn't understand the connection between Vikings and Normans, but now I have a strong sense that. Saxons, I always forget who they are. I'm like, who are they? Who are they? Who are they and where are they? And because they're often not where they're from, because they're invaders, I think. I don't know. So anyway, I feel like this is, even though it starts with Saxon, so it might start where I'm confused, but it might get me to knowledge. So that is the other one that I am going to read. And that's probably it. I do have some other ones that are in the running, but unfortunately, one of my challenges this month has been to not read hardcover books, which really doesn't line up with history, because most of the history books I have are hardcovers. My hands have been really hurting recently, so I'm experimenting with not reading hardcovers and physically heavier books to see if that makes a difference. And actually, it is making a difference. So that's going to be a challenge or something to assess later, but I'll just show a couple that may end up getting read anyway. First, I have The Essential Art History by Paul Duro and Michael Greenhalgh? Not sure about that. I love art history, and this is actually, even though it's a trade paperback and it's pretty heavy, the paper is super, super light, and it's actually just like a lexicon, so it's just A to Z or a dictionary, and so, you know, I don't think a lot of people read these A to Z, but I do, because I'm weird. I also have A History of Reading by Alberto Manguel? Not sure about that. This one actually I think is Canadian. Globe and Mail's Editor's Choice, Maclean's Best Book of the Year. So yeah, that could easily be, and it's from Vintage Canada, so definitely could be Canadian. I'm really curious to check this one out. It's funny because I think this has sometimes I hesitate from nonfiction books about books because they can often spoil books, but I think this is more about actually reading as opposed to books, so that is a contender. And then also, just because this is so pretty, and I recently just got it, The Structure of Scientific Revolutions. This is a Folio Society edition, and like, it's so pretty, by Thomas S. Kuhn. But I probably will not be reading this one because it is a hardcover and I just don't think my hands can take it. But I recently read Taming the Infinite, which was a history on mathematics, and I really, really enjoyed this one. So next up, History of Science. So looking forward to that, although it probably won't be this month, but I might cheat. I don't know. Maybe next week if my hands are continuing to feel okay. Maybe I'll try it. I'm not sure. So anyway, so those are the books that I am excited about continuing, finishing, starting for the History Challenge. Let me know if you are participating in the History Challenge and if you have done a TBR. I know there's also a tag going around for the History Challenge if you have more history goodness to share. I watched the tag. I watched Justin from Triumphal Reads tag, but I thought about doing it, but I'm like, I actually don't know if I've read enough history to have good answers for that, because as I said, it's a subject that I don't read about a lot, with the exception of art history. So yeah, I don't know, but I still love it. And I've been really enjoying watching people's TBRs and seeing what they get up to. And so I'm really curious to see how this readathon or reading challenge will go. Links below to all of the hosts, as well as all of the Summer Fling hosts. And all of the books and all the people mentioned, I always put links below. So there you go. I hope that you are going to have a fabulous week ahead, and I will be back soon with another video. I have some reviews coming down the pipe, which I didn't talk about that at any point, so they might be a little out of left field, but that might be what I have for right now, so we'll see how things go. Okay, thank you so much for watching.